He's the cardinal, he's the meatball. They get in all kinds of things, doing stuff and having fun, playing around with things.
You finally wrote our theme song.
Cardinal meatball, cardinal and meatball. So yeah.
I got cake.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Critical Beard
Critical
Podcast.
Beard Podcast.
I am one half of your hosts this evening, the Cardinal, and this is
Anselmo Meatball Formulo.
nice.
I'm back.
He's
That
back.
was that last week. That was on Felmo Meat Sack Formulo.
Yeah,
Yeah, don't worry about
yeah, he's a 3D printed in some. um, yeah, we are now back with an episode so quickly after the other one. Boom. How do you like that?
Yeah.
We did one, and now we're doing another one a week later.
Yeah.
No one does that. Who does podcasts once a week? We're like the only people.
I think we're gonna set a precedent.
I think we're gonna be presidents.
We're gonna be president. El Presidente.
I could go for some president. No, I can't. I don't think I've had that since I was like 1 year old. Don't give 1 year olds alcohol. It's
Yeah.
something my uncle taught me. So we're gonna start the show with our always beloved and ongoing segment
Yeah.
called "What You Playing."
What you playing?
Are
you asking me?
what you playing?
I beat Xenogears. Thank you. I know.
My man.
Finally, I've never beaten that game before.
I bet you haven't.
I know. It was okay.
Right.
But yeah, I beat Xenogears. This is this great podcast called Resonant Arc. Everyone should listen to that podcast. It's on YouTube and Spotify and whatever. And they do like a book club video game thing. And they just did one through Xenosaga. So I was been listening to that, and I rewatched all the Xenosaga 2 and 3 movies. Took about 8 hours, but
I'm playing the games, aren't you?
I'm not gonna play those games. I'm not gonna try to emulate. I'm not gonna try to dig through my garage for
Whoa.
my PS2 games.
Emulation's illegal. Okay.
But I owned the game.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, your PS2 broke. That's right.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't find my PS2. Plus, I didn't feel like digging through all my stuff for my games. So
It broke so much that it disappeared.
it broke. It disappeared.
We-
Maybe I'm broke.
Maybe we're all broke.
Maybe got broke.
Maybe got broke.
Yeah. So I went ahead and started Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Awesome. The music is so great.
That music is incredible.
It's just that's the one thing that will there's some disparate parts of the Xeno series, but generally the music is always stellar. So yeah.
Like they do this thing where it's like the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack. It's like there's parts that you could just like totally chill and just like relax to and like sit, like you jam that song while you're sitting on the beach. And there's other songs that in the game that make you want to like pull out a giant like saber and fight a scorpion made of fire.
Fire Scorpion.
Like a regular, but not a giant one, just a normal sized scorpion on fire.
It's the sword. It's going after.
Yeah, but yeah, the sword's tiny too, so it's like
So it's one of those toothpick swords, little plastic big swords.
oh yeah.
It just melts immediately.
Yeah.
So
So
I'll go through that one, and then I'll be asking to borrow Chronicles 2, so I could suffer through the first 2/3 of that game to get to the good part.
as soon as you ask, I'm gonna be like, well, you got to come get it, and then as soon as you walk in the door, I'm gonna have like all the lights off, and I'm gonna like one lamp, and I'm gonna turn it on, and I'll be like, "Son of a
Well.
son of a bitch, come crawling back."
Only if it's like that scene in the second Matrix movie where
Should I have a cat?
just like monitors around you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna look into trying to get some more monitors.
yeah, should definitely.
Um, I only have I don't have enough. You never have enough. This is monitor rooms.
So, what you been playing? What you playing?
Well, real quick before I get to that, you didn't answer my question.
You
Should I
mean
be holding a cat or a rabbit?
what?
What kind of animal should I be holding? When
Oh,
oh, listen, sure.
thinking like a naked mole rat.
Ooh,
Yeah, or you
interesting.
can hold multiples. That's why I like that. There's
Okay.
like a pile, like a brood of naked mole rats. That's so
They're all-
disgusting.
well.
Well, and they're just like falling out of your hands. Well, hold on. Can
Don't stop chewing on yourself. I already
I?
named them.
No.
I've already named the whole pile.
Yeah, the whole pile.
That's what they called when you get a group of
Yeah,
mole rats. Just a
yeah.
pile.
Oh, a flock, a murder, a pile.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, of course.
pile of naked mole rats. Yeah.
So, what I've been playing is I picked up a little game called Pokemon Violet.
They're still making those games.
They made two this year, um, and it.
Spoiler.
Uh, I don't know if you've been on the internet this weekend.
I try not to get on the internet.
It's kind of a shit show because they finally did the thing where they made a Pokemon game that is open world. And but like I know like we've said before, like not every game needs to be open world, but I think Pokemon makes sense as an open world game. Like it's always kind of had
Yeah,
that because it's like the show, like you're going out on your adventure. You got all. So they finally made a fully seamless open world Pokemon game that is completely open from the beginning. Well, you have a tutorial section, of course,
of course.
and also no random battles. All the battles are out in the field. You see them, they run up to you, or you run up to them. There's no loading screen to a battle. Battles happen real time right there. So you throw your Pokemon at, boom, it's right there, and you can control the camera. It's all like completely organic.
It's still turn based though.
Still turn based, of course. Um,
Tight.
and it is in all, and not only that, but from the beginning, they're like, okay, well, you can go down the champions road, right, to do like the gems. Here's the gems. There's 8 gems. You can take those down, or you can take down, the Team Rocket equivalent, which is Team Star, and so that
Oh,
you can do missions where you go in their base and you take them down. You fight the boss of the base, or you can
base.
go on these legendary Pokemon hunts where you're going to find these legendary giant Pokemon who have like grown to massive size, and you're like it's like this investigation. So there's actually 3 story points that you can visit, and you can swap between them at any time. Not only that, but all the gyms are available from the very beginning. So you can go to the last gym at the very beginning. Um, so not only that, but you have a legendary Pokemon that turns into a motorcycle, and that's how you get around the world.
Wait.
Yeah.
It turns into a motorcycle.
Well, it is.
Should have just opened with that, man.
It is a motorcycle. But if you get Scarlet, you get like a big red guy. And then if you go with Violet, you get like a purple, like futuristic lizard. And they even each version has a different motif. Like all the Scarlet Pokemon are very like primal looking, and all the Violet ones are very futuristic, sleek, metal looking things. So it's pretty dope. Yeah, and you can upgrade your mount Pokemon, right? You start with a bike, then you get like the ability to ride them through water, and then you get the ability to literally fly across the land. You can just fly through the air off a mountain. And it's like fully open world, like flying your Pokemon wherever you want to go. Now, this all sounds great, right?
No, it sounds terrible.
Oh, it sounds great. For
Wait, are the frame rates garbage?
yeah, so there's like crazy technical issues, but I'm having a blast because I am able to look past technical issues. But if you can't look past
Coming
technical
from the
issues,
guy who can't stand when foots go through stairs, can just
they're pretty good with the feet in this game.
yeah, I've looked.
Pretty good with the feet. Um,
Feet.
yeah, no, that's the thing. This game's not polished. And once like at first it's a little like, wow, okay, especially when you get into a city and you see like a dude who's like 10 feet away from you, who's like the frame rate is like 2 frames per second, like on the character model. Now, I haven't experienced a ton of like actual frame drops on my own gameplay, like my character. It's just like on the things around you, and it's pretty weird. It's like very glaring. Yeah, it's very immersion breaking. I know a lot of people are
It's
like,
not
we need
an action game, so it's not. It has no real bearing on the gameplay.
yeah. And people are like, well, we need a new Switch. That's what's going on. The Switch just isn't powerful enough. And I'm over here like, have you played Xenoblade Chronicles 3? Have you played Breath of the Wild? Those
Well, and
games are
plus, like,
those
you
games
can
look
play
fan-
Witcher 3 on that thing.
You can play Witcher 3 and it looks better on it. And it is totally almost glitch free. Now, granted, they also, I mean, CD Projekt Red had a long time. Witcher 3 was kind of a mess with it.
Yeah, but still, like, if you could play Witcher 3 with not a lot of problems, like, come on.
But
Okay.
it's kind of the Switch's Cyberpunk, but it's not
Which
quite
is
as bad as Cyberpunk, but it is distracting enough to where you're just like what, but whatever. I'm having a blast with it. So yeah, is it
like,
excusable? Should
y'all
Game Freak should the should the biggest IP in the world probably have enough money and resources to make a game that's not broken? Yeah. But
I mean, it's in their title, the Pokemon Company. You think they would like
well, the
focus?
weird thing is, like, Breath of the Wild, which is like, Nintendo is like the best ever. Like they're the best at making video. I mean, they've made successful Zelda and Mario games from the inception to now.
Yeah,
They've like barely faltered at all. And even they were like, they went to Monolith Soft and were like, we need help with this open world Breath of the Wild. So like they had like multiple teams on that game, because they can admit when they need help. But like Game Freak for some reason just wants to remain independent. Nintendo's offered their help. Nintendo's been like, hey, do you want to use our engines? Do you want to use like our resources? We can, but like obviously we need to like we want to buy, like they want to buy them, but like they will refuse to be bought. Like so they just like, no, we're independent. And so they just want to sit in their little corner. But I think this game for sure is evidence that Nintendo, maybe they could use some of that
well,
special
what
spice.
what else are you playing?
Nothing. I've never played another game in my life. Just Pokemon.
I
No.
doubt you're playing one game, man. Come on. Come on. Give it to me.
No, I'm still picking away at God of War Ragnarok. I am 23 or 24 hours in, and it gets better and better and better throughout the game. If there's any real complaints that I have to levy at it, it was that there is a little bit of a weird pacing issue at the beginning. It's just like not necessarily right at the beginning, but like it opens like so incredibly strong, and then it's just like then there's that kind of plotting like
Right.
really low
They
key
start they,
pace.
they started a little too strong, and we're like, okay, where are we gonna go right now?
Yeah, they're like, oh well, we're gonna start you, and it's in the trailers and everything. So the first 45 minutes, but like, yeah, we're gonna open the game with a Thor boss fight, and then it's gonna be the most incredible thing you've ever seen. And then it's like, then you're gonna go into a mine and hang out for like, a couple hours doing some like
Yeah, I've seen
basic.
games do stuff like that before. They
You're like, ah, come on, man, that was so dope. Um, no, it's still incredible. It gets better and better. The story is really incredible, and it also has this way of throwing as being as unpredictable as it could possibly be. The story, they know the characters of Freya, Balder, Thor, Odin, but like they like the guy they got, like the joke running around the internet, like the way they play Odin is that he is like this. He's got this like Steve Buscemi energy. Like he's kind of this like weird, kind of crabby old white guy from like maybe New York City or something. I don't know. I'm Odin. There's like, but it's great. Like I love it so much. And Thor is just this big fat glutton of he's just like he's got this big chonky belly, and he's like, whatever, dude. He's like yeah, but they're yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. I recommend everyone play it, but probably play the last one first because you might be a little lost.
It's a sequel.
It is. It does a really bad job. There's a little movie you can watch. It's like recap of the last game, and it is the shortest recap ever. It's like,
It's just like a montage of stuff.
I
You're like, I wish I had context. What just happened?
I just watched that and had no idea I had no idea what any of that meant. But
It was
anyway.
more for like people who have played it. They just need a quick refresher on events.
That's what I watched it and I was like, yeah, okay, I remember.
Like, oh, the thing that happened. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really all I've been playing. Pokemon and God of War are like they're both just and going from Pokemon to God of War is crazy because God of War is like the most polished game I've ever played, and it's like this running at
I hear you say that every 6 months.
Huh?
Like I hear you say that every 6 months. This is the most polished game I've ever like. Are graphics just moving faster and faster? I'm so out of this generation.
Well, so I don't say this is the most polished game I've ever played. I'll say like this is the best looking graphically. Like I think Horizon Forbidden West is probably like one of the best looking games I've ever played, but I wouldn't say it's the most polished game. No, the God of War is like both. It's like just incredibly polished, and the visuals are incredible. It also has the luxury of being not an open world, so they kind of can cultivate. But yeah, it is. It's incredible. But yeah, going back and forth between Pokemon and that, it's just crazy. It's like
going to be open world, by the way.
Huh?
The next God of War is going to be open world.
No.
Yeah, it is.
So you talked to him?
Yeah, I mean, I got it. He's like, they love the open world. We got to do the open world.
Yeah. The boss of Sony Santa Monica sounds really weird.
Yeah, I know.
That way.
I don't know. He's from Santa Monica. I don't know. They're weird down there.
So were you saying he's the boss?
He is the boss.
Speaking of bosses.
What? Whoa. Whoa. That was
whoa. Check out that segue. Rob way.
Wow.
Card
segue.
Signal. So
yeah.
Topic of the show is what are the best boss fights in video games?
Like, what are your favorite bosses? So
what
like,
are your favorites?
So like, what are your favorite bosses?
Throw my hair away. Yeah, so I guess we'll start. I have a list of 5.
Me too. That we didn't even talk about this. We just showed up. This is crazy.
That's so fun. Okay.
Well, first, before we get to our list, I just want to quick like what makes a good boss for you?
They have to be a boss.
True.
And then you have to fight it.
Man, this is going to be a terrible list.
No, like for me, I think like subverting like expectations is a really big one for me, or just like totally surprising me with like game mechanic or really epic. I think a good soundtrack in the background helps a lot.
Yeah.
But
I agree with you. Like for me, just it doesn't even have to be a good fight per se or a hard fight. But,
yes.
And you just give me the goosey bumpies.
Yeah.
The goosey bumpies. I think it's an Italian word. The goosey bumpy.
Yeah, goosey bumpies.
He doesn't give me the goosey bumpy. I'm good, man. I'll remember it for years.
Yeah. That's all it takes. It's what it takes for me. I think my honorable mention was sort of kind of that, right? Like Simone from Nier Automata. She's the opera singer that you fight, and then it's almost like the song that's playing in the background is like her singing. It's like this incredibly dark, operatic, melancholy synth. I don't even understand. I don't know what kind of music that score is. Like mere,
Electro opera.
yeah, it's incredible. And she's screaming like, I just want to be beautiful and stuff. And she's like sending waves of
I mean, that leads
cool
into
hell mixed with
to
hack and slash. It's just that it's incredible. It does a lot of the things that I love in a fight.
yeah.
And the story, having a really tragic storyline playing out in the middle of a boss fight is really like a really cool thing for me too. Um, so yeah, that's my honorable mention.
That leads into my honorable mention. It's Kefka from Final Fantasy VI, also an opera in the back.
A couple of opera guys.
It's a kapapa. Oh, go to the bump. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of Final Fantasy bosses to choose from, honestly.
So far, there's a few.
And in Kefka, it's just like the music, the sprite work is like crazy. Just like ascending this tower of deformed things. It's crazy. And then it's like the song is like 16 minutes long. A 16-minute long 16-bit battle song that's just crazy.
Yes, for that Final Fantasy VI was the most like ambitious game had ever been made at that point. Like it was just crazy how much content there was in that game. How they like we could just end the game here, but we're gonna blow the whole world up and then like make a whole new map. You're gonna go back through it. You're like, what?
Well, I guess we'll get to our list proper. If you want to hit me with your number 5.
Okay, well, speaking of God of War, also if y'all hadn't maybe guessed, these lists will contain spoilers because we are talking about video games that have boss fights, and the boss fights have story, things, and it might be a final boss fight in a game. So if you hear a game that you don't want spoiled for you, maybe don't listen to this part of it and fast forward. Or just listen anyway. Could be a little punk ass.
Don't be a little weenie, dude. It's the internet. Probably been spoiled anyway, dude.
Yeah. You probably got gold bars in your house, or your bed.
Gold bars.
You know who you are. Um, so first game, God of War from 2018. Balder, or the Stranger, as you know him in the beginning, because you don't know who he is. But it's the first fight in the whole game, and him and Kratos engage in what can only be, because the whole game is a single camera shot. So everything that happens, the camera has to constantly be following Kratos, and so he'll like deck Kratos in the face, and he'll go flying over a house, but the camera's just following like his face as he's like, it's incredible. It's like one of the cool. Like,
no, I've actually played. That's the only part of that game I played was the first hour or something.
Yeah, and
it's pretty cool.
That whole fight, it's so incredibly well done and well made, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like the first, like the opening hour of that game is like one of the best opening hours of any game. But I kind of cheat a little bit here because Balder, obviously, it's not the first time you fight him, because he is also the final boss. Oh my god! And he is even. It's somehow they like top the boss fight at the beginning with the one at the end, and it's even more crazy. And there's a dragon involved. Like it's just as cool as possibly be. Yeah. It's just one of those. It's completely the music, the direction. It feels like I'm watching Norse version of like a Dragon Ball Z fight, essentially. Like it's incredible. Like it's just I don't know. Like I loved it to death. So that's the newest. No, it's not the newest game on my list. Second newest. So I shall hand it over to you now, sir. What is your number 5?
Okay. Well, my number 5 is probably the oldest on our list, maybe. Maybe. I don't know. I forgot what you have on your list. But it's from The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. It is the mini boss Aghanim. Aghanim.
Aghanim.
He's like this dark wizard dude. But I remember playing that when I was a kid, and I thought he was it, right?
Oh yeah.
I thought he was it because you do 4 dungeons, and then you go save the princess, and you fight the dark wizard, and it's like, oh no, there's like 8 more dungeons to go, and it's in the
Yeah.
dark world.
Yeah, you remember the of the past part?
Yeah, it's
The
like
past?
just for the fact, like just pure nostalgia of like not knowing what was going on, and then like it's like, oh no, this guy was just a puppet. You have like 2/3 of a game to go. Oh,
Yeah.
and plus, it's just like one of the greatest games. And
And
just
it introduces the swinging your sword to knock the laser back mechanic
right,
that's
which leads into the
became
Ganon fight.
very synonymous with the Zelda games later on.
The fight itself really isn't anything special at all. It's just the fact that I just remember being so taken aback by the fact that like the game hadn't even started yet.
Yeah. But that was definitely one of the first games where it was like, oh, bitch, you thought this was going to be like a short game, didn't you?
Right.
And as a kid, when you're a kid, you only like you're not like, oh man, I just need to get through my backlog of games. Like you're like,
No.
I have this one game to hold me over for a year until I get my my next game or whatever. And so when you find out a game is like twice as long as you thought, you're like, oh, this is good. This is awesome. Not to mention when you first land in the Dark World, that song is one of the best songs ever.
Uh, yeah, that's my number 5. That is my number 5. The song is my number 5.
Yeah, same. Number 4 for me is from a video game called Shadow of the Colossus. You don't want that spoiled for you. Move on. I don't know why you care.
I
It's
don't know
been out
why
for
the game could be spoiled, but except in the very, very, very end.
very end. Yeah, really. Yeah, there's not much to spoil. It's like they're just boss. So big surprise, a game that's literally boss fights
That's what
makes it my list. But Avion and Phalanx, I'm gonna cheat again here because I can I can't I can't pick. Avion is it's like one of those gaming moments when I was a kid that it just absolutely blew me away because Shadow of the Colossus is a game where you're a little character and you're climbing on giant colossi on their fur and you're trying to reach their weak points and stab them with your sword. But climbing onto them is always like, how do I get up there? And oh, I gotta like cut his shin and then they'll fall over and then I climb up his armor or whatever. Well, then Avion shows up and he's just a bird. You're like, how the heck am I supposed to get on the bird? He's flying in the sky. And like, you just have to wait for him to swoop down. And then you jump on his fur, on his wing, and you're like flying, and you're like flailing all around. And it was like the sense of scale in that
There's
game
nothing like
already.
that at the time. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, incredible. And you're like, and then you're like up in the sky, and he's just flying around with you. And you're like, what is happening? Like, how does that game even exist? I don't know how they made that game on the PS2.
On the PS2, I don't know how they made that game. There are some games I don't know how they made, like Shadow of the Colossus, Metal Gear Solid 3, uh,
Yeah.
um, Final Fantasy 12. Like, I don't know how the heck they made these games on a PS2.
And they worked, and there was no
Yeah,
patches or anything back
there's
then.
no
It was
patches. There's no crazy lags. There's no, yeah, yeah.
Shadow of the Colossus is like the most technically like impressive video game ever made at that time for me, anyways. So yeah, Avion, yeah. So you had to jump on him, and you were fighting, and then you'd be flying, and you'd be holding on, you'd be like slowly crawling up his side, like getting to his
Music.
weak spots, and like just, shoving the sword, into him, and then you could fall off. Like you're like, well, what if you fall off? And then you literally fall off, and you'd fall back in the water, and you're like back where you were. So you're like, how is this being rendered all at the same time? Like it feels like I'm flying miles above everything in the sky, and then like it just it was incredible. And then Phalanx is a boss that's kind of similar later on, but he's like even more impressive because he's this giant dragon that floats above the sands, and you've gone through this forest, and you come out of this forest, this vast desert, and all you see is this huge like floating dragon that's just kind of like going across the sands, and he has these giant balloon sacks, and again you're going, how am I supposed to get to that thing? And you have to like take out his little like balloon sacks to where, because that's keeping his altitude high, and then he gets lower, and he has these wings that kind of like, start skirting onto the ground, and you have to ride your horse like next to him, and then you like get right up next to the wing, and you like and you jump off and grab onto him, and then you climb up and make your way and stab him in the face. That's all incredible. The music on both of those fights is also just incredibly epic. It's like the most epic shit ever. There's nothing like Shadow of the Colossus, and I don't think there ever will be.
No, I don't think so. Just the it's sheer like simplicity with also like the complexity of how the heck they made that game.
Yeah,
It's such a game, but it's like how like the gameplay's simple.
I remember
everything else about it.
Walking in and seeing that game and being like, what is happening? Like, I mean, on the PS2, like he was just like watching me play. He was like, this is what games look like now? Like,
especially like compared to like a PS1, like even late stage PS1 games were impressive, but like, dang, that jump, easy.
That jump was quay.
Yeah, that jump quay.
What's your number 4?
Number 4 is from Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, you're not gonna guess who it is.
Tony.
No, it's Sephiroth.
Tony
Genova. It was a hard choice because it's kind of the easy choice, but like it's just a great boss fight. Just like the design of Sephiroth himself, the lead up to it, the music. My gosh, the music. Like,
yeah.
My gosh, do I have to say anything about the music?
I've never heard it.
Like, what's his one attack? What is it? The one that like summons a
The
freaking
Mass Effect attack that like gives all your
summons a meteor and like destroys every planet until it gets to Gaia and then blows you up.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing. It's his ultimate in Smash Brothers.
Really?
It's his ultimate move is he does his move from Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah,
So he just destroys the
I
universe
still
like
remember
that.
when I saw that attack. I was just like, pretty sure I just like had to pause, just be like, what did I just watch?
You're like,
This makes
what?
no sense. But it makes no sense. Everything should be gone and dead, but here I am. That's what I love about like JRPGs. Like they're so abstract. It's like the Sephiroth has his attack that summons a meteor and destroys every planet in the solar system, and then you're back. Like, wait,
Yeah.
hold on a second.
And then or like Bahamut Zero, right? Like he destroys like half of the planet. You're like half of the
And then
planet.
you don't even like, yeah, he does like 2,000 damage to guys. Wait a minute.
Like, wait, hold up.
Shouldn't this constant be gone? No? Okay.
Yeah, that's an incredible boss fight.
Just great. And like I mean, and not even the final form of Sephiroth, you have like the multiple forms, which each of the forms have really, really great music. And then the final one-on-one fight, it's not really a fight per se, because you just do Omnislash, kill him.
Yeah, Omnislash. Yeah.
Still great. The whole thing is super
You would Sephiroth
stylish.
like in space, the space pocket dimension thing.
Super.
So
It's just cool. I can't think of anything else. It's cool. That was kind of the beginning of the Final Fantasy Nomura style over substance kind of thing. Or like, let's just have
sense, but it was just cool.
Let's make it the coolness matters more. And then he started adding zippers and belts and stuff, and they're like, hey, pump your brakes, man. That's too many.
One more zipper, please. One more zipper, one more buckle.
Come on, man. One more buckle, man. He needs bigger shoes.
Every character just looks like Voldo from Soul Calibur.
Like the final form of all Tetsuya. All of his characters, the end form is just Voldo,
This is what he's always wanted.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that almost made my list. Yeah, absolutely almost made my list. But I I was like, I feel like you're gonna put it. So
I think it's like I feel like I had to. If I was gonna put a JRPG fight, I'm like, oh, I think I have to put it on there just because it's just the coolest. It's the most
Mhm.
stylish and the one that made the most impact like, for me and pretty
Literally
much one. You know,
fits the entire universe.
yeah, the whole
Well,
galaxy's solar system's gone.
it's a lot of impact there.
My favorite is one that like flies through like the meteor like flies through like Jupiter or something and like goes whoop, like it makes a ring and it goes,
Oh yeah, it goes like through. Yeah, it like goes through because the gas giant.
it's gaseous. It's like a little detail. It's like they're smart. They thought of that.
Yeah, that's really what would happen. We just go what? Just stretch out.
Uh,
Well,
what's your number 3?
number three is from a video game that came out in 2021 or
Yeah,
last year, as some people know it. Um, it's a game, and I will be spoiling this game. Um, so it's called Metroid Dread, and it's a boss called
Yeah,
Ravenbeak, who is the final boss.
Raven Beak.
And given time, this could be my number one. But because it's so like recent, I felt like I couldn't put it higher than three. Um, yeah, I needed to gestate, but like it's I don't know, man. The more I think about this boss fight, I mean, so um, if you don't want Metroid Dread spoiled for you, please click away. And so I didn't clear this with you, but you haven't played this
I
game. Do
mean,
you want this?
it's Metroid. Like, how much can it really?
Okay. Well, it turns out Ravenbeak is your father, and he's tricked you to come to this planet all along. And so he's Samus's Chozo father,
Yeah,
and
she was raised by the Chozos, right?
yeah,
She's Chozo.
correct.
She was raised.
Yeah, she's half Chozo. Yeah,
Did she have? I thought she was just raised by the Chozos.
she's half Chozo. She's half Chozo, half human, and then she has the Metroid DNA in her body from fusion because they had to. Yeah. So the whole game, you're going, okay, this game's called Metroid, but there's no Metroids. And
What are they gonna? They call it something different?
yeah, but there's like all Metroids are gone, like they're all dead.
Yeah.
And Ravenbeak. So there's this final battle with Ravenbeak, and it's a really really hard fight, and it's 3 phases. And if you lose, you like go back to the first phase.
Classic.
But it's like old school 2D, just executing perfect timing. It feels like an old school like 2D boss fight. And the controls though in Metroid Dread are so much better than the controls in other Metroid games. Let's be honest, Metroid's never controlled very slick. It's always been kind of slower, and
More, yeah. It's more
Samus
like Contra than Mario.
truly feels badass in this game. And then so you go through phase one and phase two, and then he like grows his wings and he starts flying around, and it's like it's just like you're having to learn the patterns, but it's never unfair. It's just like you just have to learn it. You're just having to learn it like an old school video game. Um, and then you finally get him, and you beat him, you beat his final form, and then he like turns around and he grabs Samus by the throat and he's holding her up, and he's like squeezing the life out of her, and he's like, saying it's all like too bad that she can't join him, like soul, join me and shit. Um, and then her eyes, like she literally like dies, like he kills her, and then she's just like her eyes open and it's green, and the Metroid DNA takes over, and she starts screaming, and she's like, "Ah!" And he's like, "What the fuck is going on?" And then she just like jumps onto him like a Metroid,
I found
jumps onto him, and she's like spidered onto him, and she's sucking the life force out of Raven. And and he's just like, ah, he's flailing, and she's just like latched onto him, just like literally like Metroiding this motherfucker to death. And she's slowly like changing form. And then after she like kills him, classic escape sequence, right? The
right.
planet's gonna blow up, because it always is in a Metroid game. But she's in a Metroid form, and so you got to do the escape sequence, but you have your beam has become like a giant like screen clearing beam. You can just literally like blast through the entire level, and then you get outside, and Samus is in just like literally she's like it's like her her uniform, but it's all like green and organic looking, and she's got like spikes coming out of it and stuff. It like looks like a freaking awesome Power Ranger suit or something. I don't even care. But and then Ravenbeak, he's like comes back and he's like all infected with the parasite from Metroid Dread that he unleashed on the station. And so he's like this eldritch horror version of Ravenbeak. So he's got like this his head is all like it's like nightmare fuel. And he's like coming at you. And it's just like this sequence where it's like this 2.5D and you have to hold down this button to like charge up her beam and she just shoots this freaking giant thing. You have to like aim it like right at his head. And it's just like this Dragon Ball Z, Mega Man. I don't even understand what it is, but it's like the coolest thing I've ever seen. And it's like slowly, like his pieces of him are just like getting pulled off as she's like shooting this beam, and then he like slowly dies, and then she jumps into her ship. Um,
Of course.
and as soon as right before she starts it, Adam, the computer says, "Don't. It'll drain the ship's power." Because you're a Metroid. She's a fucking Metroid now, so she can't touch her ship. And then she has to like learn to control herself, and she has to so she channels the Metroid away out of her, and and then she flies off. That's good. But yeah, it's just like I can't really explain why that boss fight's so awesome without like explaining the entire game, like that ending. But yeah, everything about it is fantastic, and I was like chills, 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 and it just gets better and better. You're like, no, I'm not right. What? And it's like, oh, you were the Metroid the whole time. That's the Metroid of the game.
Real
What?
Metroid was the friends we made along the way.
Anyway, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so you kill your dad. Good job.
Sounds dope.
It's incredible. It's an
I'll have to
incredible.
buy that eventually.
It didn't get enough praise because it was a 2D game and it was made in modern times. I feel like people like just write them off. They're just like,
Metroid Prime 4.
I'm paying $60 for a 2D video game. Like, yeah, loser. Sorry, that one was long. That's probably the most long-winded of all of them.
It's okay.
What's your number 3?
It's okay. So, I'll just preface it with if I could, I would just make like a top 20 Metal Gear Solid boss fight list.
Mhm.
But I mean, that wouldn't be very fair or interesting to anyone but like me and a few other people. But
Be
this
surprised.
one, it's hard. I mean, it's hard. This should be number 1, but there's just too many boss fights. Psycho Mantis from Metal Gear Solid 1.
Classic.
It's crazy how much they subvert with that boss fight. And there was never anything like it before or after. It's just like it's crazy. It's a bonkers boss fight.
If you got to play it before you got any of it spoiled because it was such a meme, it was like if you actually got to play that without any of it being spoiled too, it was like
it is a huge special place in your heart if you were there. Like I don't want to sound like if you were there, you'd know.
I mean,
if you were there, you know how crazy that boss fight really was.
You read your memory card.
And I had Castlevania on there. I had Suikoden on there.
Yeah, I had Suikoden and Castlevania on there at the same time. So like, I think some people got an even more surprising thing. Right? It was like, because of course, so you like Castlevania and Suikoden, don't you? And you're like, what?
Yeah, I do.
How?
He would like shake the remote. You'd like put your controller down. It's like he's talking to me. Okay. And you would like attack the real world using my controller. And then you had the only way to beat it's so genius. The only way to beat him is to take the control away from him.
Yeah.
And put it in literally take the control away from him.
Yeah.
It's just great. And then like the screen clicking and the Hideo, and it's great. It's just absolute classic.
It's Kojima, like
distilled Kojima.
Yeah, it's just his essence in the most pure form. It's just like everything he is in that fight. Like Oh man, yeah.
It's tongue in cheek, it's kitschy, it's horrific, it's silly, it's action, it's everything I love about Kojima just rolled into not the hardest. It's not a hard boss fight. If you know what to do, it's not a hard boss fight.
Well, yeah, especially if you know. Well, the point of it is it's supposed to screw with your mind. It's assuming you've never played
Yeah.
the game before.
Yeah.
But yeah, the plug-in. I mean, I remember sitting there and I don't know what to do. I
Yeah.
don't know what to do. And then I think doesn't Otacon eventually tell you to do it or
Yeah,
like
if you call the colonel, if you call the colonel, he'll eventually tell you,
yeah,
or he won't like tell you explicitly.
he'll be like yeah, but he'll be like we need to try to put controller number 2 or something like that. And he said something to that effect, like because I feel like I don't think I
Try
figured
to
it
use a
out.
different control port.
Yeah, I think he says that, right? Try a different control port.
And then like the whole like he's holding Meryl suicide hostage the whole time. It's just like it's crazy, man. Just crazy. Yeah.
Incredible.
So
Is it Meryl
Meryl,
Meryl,
Meryl.
what are you doing tomorrow? Isn't she Laura Bailey? Or I mean not Laura Bailey. Dang it. The heck? The chick who voiced Bayonetta now after the thing that happened.
I'm not sure.
Why can't I think of her name? She's
All
like,
that stuff.
oh my goodness.
I'm sorry.
She's a female shepherd at mascot.
Oh, Jennifer Hale.
Jennifer Hale. That's
Jennifer
her.
Hale. No, no, she's not familiar with Jennifer Hale. Jennifer Hale took over for Naomi.
Naomi.
She wasn't Naomi. Actually, she was Naomi in the first one, but
Yeah,
she used the accent. And then they dropped the accent.
Naomi.
The subsequent. Now, pretty sure.
Naomi. I'm the colonel.
What did you inject me with, Kenomi? Kenomi. Kenomi.
Oh, Naomi.
Just fuse Konami and Naomi together. Oh boy. All right.
You
What's
never know.
what's your number 4?
Well, speaking of Metal Gear,
Yeah, Gear.
Metal what? Yeah, I mean, it's like I don't know. I feel like objectively, like you have to have a Metal Gear boss fight on your list. Like it's just,
Always just not always. Like Peace Walker and 5 had their lesser boss moments, but
yeah,
generally,
yeah.
I mean,
5 definitely. Other than Sahelanthropus, which was incredible.
yeah.
That boss fight was wild, man. I've never been so scared in a non-horror game than I was with that fight. I was like, I don't even want to move.
Yeah.
Like,
Like when you're trying to get Huey out, and you're like,
yeah,
leave me alone.
there's no way. But yeah, my number 2 has to go to Liquid Ocelot for Metal Gear Solid 4.
That was up there because it's the greatest love letter to Metal Gear. It's so good.
It's it's just everything every fan ever wanted. I think in a
Plus, it's
fight. I
like
mean,
two old dudes just having a punch out on top of a giant freaking warship.
and then all the soundtracks from the old like the older games play through. It plays through like Metal Gear Solid 1 and
Even
play
like the HUDs change.
2.
The
Huh?
HUDs change. The HUDs change
That
for
changes,
the
yeah.
hell. The
And
names
then
change.
just like I love so like this is another thing I love in boss fights when actual things happen that would happen in real life that you don't think about, like two people fighting for so long they get tired.
Yeah.
Because by the end of it, you're like, "Ugh," you're just like throwing punches and barely connecting, and it's like you're just both so worn out. But oh my gosh, is that incredible? Not to mention the fight when um, he's in Metal Gear Ray, and you're in Rex, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's in Ray.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, like all the whole final build up in that game is like just like I'm
Plus,
such
like
a
all the context in that final fight, like just like it's Ocelot like getting what he finally wanted, like to fight the boss, to fight Big Boss. Like
yeah.
so he would die for that man. And he's just like he saw the snake looking just like Big Boss. He's just like, this is what I want. I'm gonna,
Dude,
I'm gonna go
I
down ending. I'm like
really, like,
fantastic.
I'm such a Return of the Jedi person. I love a good ending. You know what I mean? I love a good, just really good fucking ending to a big legacy of games or movies or whatever. And I I'm just like, I don't know, that the end of that game was incredible for me. Um,
Oh man, yeah. And then like the last 40 minutes,
ending was like 2 hours long. It was so long.
Big Boss shows up again, and it's like, oh, I can't handle this, man. What's
Yeah,
going? I can't handle this right now.
hey kid.
He dies on the grave of the boss. He smokes the cigar, and he's like, "This is good, isn't it?" He dies. It's like, I can't do this. Can't do this again. It's so good, so good.
Yeah, that whole ending is just like, are you crying now? Are you crying yet? What about now? 'Cause we're gonna
Snake's led
do
a
it.
hard life. Stop it! I can't cry anymore.
Um, what's your number two?
Number two is another one from the Zelda series. The Zelda series has always been known for good boss fights, just in general. Good boss fights.
I had to really hold back on the not put. I feel like I didn't put Zelda or Final Fantasy because I like had a feeling you were gonna do it, so I was like, I won't. But like,
Like he'll take care of the old shit.
yeah,
That's okay. It may not be the best. It's not the best fight. And it's not even the most like mechanically interesting fight. But the final Ganon fight in Ocarina of Time,
oh
like
yeah,
everything, like the everything about it, the music, like the camera, like the camera work, as much as camera work they had at, on the N64. And I just remember playing that fight over and over again, just because I thought it was the freaking coolest thing. Like
the same. Yeah,
you beat Ganondorf and you're like running through the castle, and you're like, yeah, and out comes, and it doesn't. Like before that, all the bosses had like subtitles, like Ganondorf, King of Thieves or whatever. And
yeah,
this was just like,
yeah. Because the whole time, through the whole game, you're like, because this was the first time I believe in the Zelda games that it was all about Ganondorf, and
right,
Ganon was
it's like
nowhere to be seen.
cool,
And
right?
we're like, where's Ganon though? And then at the end, you're like, well, I guess I killed him. And then he comes, well, and you always know at the end of a game like that, when you beat him, the castle falls down, and then Zelda's talking to you, and she's like, you did it, Link. I'm so proud of you. But what's missing? Music. There's no music playing, right? So it's not
Right.
like dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun, dun. It's like
like
it's just like complete
things
silence,
happen.
and then you're like, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And then
In like the fight, and like it's like you get your sword knocked out of your hand, and like Zelda's trapped behind the fire, and then like she shoots him with the light arrow, and it's just like as much as it could be in 1996 on an N64, very cinematic.
yeah, it was.
64 is not a powerhouse enough to do cinematic stuff, really.
And like you said, a boss fight doesn't need to be hard to be like a really good boss fight, and that was I think, maybe the first time people played it, they might have died because they didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
But as soon as
I
you
was
do to
like,
like hit the power back to Ganondorf, and then when he was Ganon, you knew to roll between his legs. Pretty much after that, because his weakness was his tail. Yeah. Um, you know, those fights weren't hard, but they were just like so cool.
yeah,
And the music, the tension, the stakes, the art direction, the everything about it, like it's just so well done. Like, and I
I guess my
still,
like general, like, dude, if it's cool,
yeah,
because especially if it's like a final boss fight, like I'm not looking for like some like super hard fight that I'm gonna have to like try 6 times to beat. Like, give
yeah,
me something cool that I'll remember, and then 25 years later, I'll be like, I'm on a podcast and I'm gonna talk about it.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
like that's what I'm looking for.
like the truly hard fights to like stay side quests, like Omega
Right.
Weapon, Ruby Weapon,
Right.
like
Right.
just keep them.
The
I don't need.
yeah.
Yeah, like just make the final boss like cinematic and fun and
Right.
just like entertaining. Um, don't I mean it can be challenging, but don't make it be like impossible. Which I think
Don't
maybe
make it like a gate to the credits. Right.
the only critique I could levy at Ravenbeak from Metroid Dread is so many people were like, "This boss is impossible. He's so hard," and like I guess I just had those 2D reflexes, like because 3D games I'll get my ass handed to me. Like I don't like to play 3D games in hard mode, but something about 2D games, my brain just understands it. Like it's like Castlevania, Mega Man, Ninja Gaiden, like reflexes just come back to me, and I'm like, oh, that's how I play games with my finger like that. Anyway,
Weird. You're like you play him sassy. You're like, mm-mm-mm.
girl, I beat him with a freaking DDR pad, bro.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
So number one? Your
number one, my number one most bested boss fight in the history of games ever made, and that's not the definitive, the take on the whole thing because I'm the best that there ever was.
you got a boss.
We're gonna go with Gigas, I guess.
I
There's
knew
a voice
you.
acting name.
I knew-
Guy, yes. No. It's Gigas, right?
Yeah, of
We're
course.
gonna
It is.
say
Yeah.
Gigas. So the Pokey slash Gigas fight at the end of Earthbound.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about what I love in a boss fight, um, this is the culmination of all of that. This is um, the music that catches you off guard right when you start fighting Pokey. And it's like the whole game you've been listening to this da 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 bum, 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 da, 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 da. You listen to this really cheery, somewhat melancholy soundtrack. The soundtrack's incredible, but it's just it's not this thing. And then this boss comes out at the end, and it's just like heavy guitars and squealing metal starts playing, and you're like, "What is happening?" It's like it gets you like pumped. And so like the opening part of the fight is Pokey, who's your friend who's betrayed you, and it's just like this. It's kind of emotional, and it's kind of like, damn. But it's like a lot of it is like, "Fuck you, kid," you know. And so it's this. It's and the music really fits that because it's like, "You betrayed me, you bitch," and so you're just like beating them up with your bat, and it's obviously turn-based RPG, so it's not really that's all in your mind. But
Gotcha.
yeah, but you beat him up and you knock him pretty good, and then of course he's out for the count, and then you got to fight Gigas, who's the final boss. And then you're like, all right, yeah, I just whooped your kid's ass. Let's go, Gigas, and then he's just this, and the whole game there's been these really colorful backgrounds. And the cool twist is that Gigas is the colorful background. Like he just is the background.
He's
He
the one.
isn't he is not a tangible being. He's just, and so you attack him with your bat. You attack him with psychic powers. You attack him with everything you have. And there's this weird thing. Again, this is one of those things like Psycho Mantis, where if you've had it spoiled for you, it's not as special. If you know what to do. Um, but it's stop it. Stop chewing on your butt. Anyways,
Is that your kid?
my son, he's
Stop,
always chewing on.
stop chewing on your butt, kid.
My dog's just out there, just like it's like a feast. He's just like, it's like,
I can say a lot about that, but I'm not.
mm.
Mm. Feasty buns.
Hot buns. Get your hot buns. But yeah. Anyways, that fight just totally subverts all expectations because nothing works. None of the psychic moves, none of the physical moves, none of your like karate, none of the gadgets that Jeff has built through the game. Like nothing works, and you're like, "What is going on?" And he's like, and he's knocking your party out. Like I'm at like almost dead, and you've done everything. and you're like, what can I possibly do? And there's like one thing left to try because Paula has a move called Pray. And it's a move that has been the most useless thing throughout the entire game. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't even work. It'll say she prayed and no one heard her and nothing happened. So you'll lose a whole turn because you tried it. And then sometimes you'll get a little bit of health restored, like, and that's it. And so you're out of options. You're like, whatever, I'm using everything. So you're just like, Paula, pray, do your stupid move that I don't even know what to do because nothing's damaging this guy. And then she prays, and then it goes to these cutscenes showing all these people that you've met throughout your adventure praying for you. They stop and think about you and where you guys are on your journey, and it cuts back to these scenes, and then the damage starts finally being done to Gigas, and you're like, what the hell? It works. Keep praying, bitch. Keep going. And so like each turn you're like pray, pray, pray. You're just trying to keep your guys alive, because at this point again it's been the fight is so well done to where it makes it to where you're almost dead when you finally figure out what's going on, like how to like what to do. And then she prays again, and then more and more people from throughout your adventure, it cuts to another cutscene, and it's more and more of the band, the Runaway Five, is thinking about you, and the guy who takes the pictures thinking about you, and this and that, and then their combined, thoughts and prayers, the positive vibes, are going and attacking Gigas, and then Gigas starts getting, like the damage becomes even more every time, and it just doubles, triples, and quadruples, and then to the point where you're doing like million damage to him every turn, and it builds and builds and builds, and it's not only like just this boss fight that is just incredibly like well thought out and just so outside of the box,
Yeah.
but like the just going back and seeing like your mom and sister and stuff like praying for you, and like just like, and then going back to the boss fight, and then it cutting to these different sequences, and it's like incredibly emotional. It's got to be the only boss fight I've ever cried during, like during, not after, not like something happened after the fight, but like during the fight, because it's just like the way it's played, the music, the way that it's just like this whole journey, because this game isn't short. It's like 40 hours long, and that was a long game back then.
Yeah.
And just like the culmination of your journey being, them showing literally every part of your journey, being what defeats the final boss, is all these people you've met throughout the journey. It's the friends we met along the way, is literally the way you beat this motherfucker. And yeah, it's just incredible, like such an incredibly emotional sequence. So I always, that will always be my number one favorite boss fight, even if, like you said, it's not mechanically awesome, or it's not like hard once you know what to do. It's like Psycho Mantis. If you know what to do, you can just pray from the beginning, and it's not like, oh, it's not gonna blow your mind. But like, I still think, even if you've never played Earthbound and you went into it even knowing like how to beat the final boss, I still think that scene, that would still kind of tug at your heartstrings, because it's just
with everything, like everything you've gone through, the music especially.
yes, the music in that game really knows how to like make you like sad, like like happy cry, you're like, it's so pure, like it's just like such a pure, wholesome game, like, but it's so also just so bizarre. um but yeah, that's my number one, and I think I
That's a
would love it. Yeah, thanks.
that's a really good one.
Thanks.
You know what? That's your number one's kind of similar to my number one in a way. My number one is the boss of bosses, the
Boss.
boss from Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Yeah, flower fields.
Like yeah, it's almost like the inverse of the Gigas fight. Like it's a hard fight. It's
Yeah.
not it is a culmination of like you overcoming all the Cobra units, and then it's a boss fight. I guess it tests your final skills. Um, just like just the context of it all, and just like where this is going, where this guy, where Big Boss is going to end up, and what he knows what he has to do. She knows what he has to do, and the you could just walk away from the game and not pull the
And
trigger. you could turn the game off, you know.
Yeah.
But you do it, and yeah, it's a great boss fight. The music, the imagery, like yes.
No one who ever played that fight will ever forget that field of flowers that you fight her in, like,
No.
and then when we got that like tease, that like super high res CG.
The pachinko.
Yeah, and we're like, what is this? Is it a remake? Like, it's a pachinko machine, and we're like, I hate myself.
Yeah, yeah. It very a very emotional boss fight because you go through the game and you learn their connection to each other, and you learn what she is doing and why she's doing it and why she has to do it and why you're forced to do it to save the world. Basically, you have to kill your best friend, your mentor, your love. You got to kill them, just like she had to do it. It's terrible. I
And
love it.
what the fact that you know these characters aren't in any of the other Metal Gear games goes to tell you that, like, you know, she she ain't gonna make it.
Yeah, it's like we know what's gonna happen. And
She
just
ain't
like,
gonna-
and then the subsequent, ending cutscenes. It's just I mean, all in all, it's a game full of really good boss fights, as
oh
most
yeah,
of your games.
yeah.
Um,
Metal Gear 3 is like,
but
yeah,
yeah, I was gonna put the end. Like that was kind of I was between the boss and the end because the end is you play the end in like European extreme mode, and it's like the most ridiculous boss fight. Like it will take you
there's so
hours
many
to get
ways to
towards.
there's so many ways to beat the end. Like, it's like you can, I mean, like the fact that you can kill him at the beginning of the game. You can also, but like even during the fight, there's so many ways to kill him. And I just remember like it's one of those fights that you're figuring it out when you as you go along. Because you're like, how is this working? And it's sort of like, how do you want it to work? Like,
Yeah,
because you could kind of go up and just find him laying there and like cut him with a knife if you want to,
if
or
you're sneaky enough.
if you're sneaky enough. But like, the real best way to do it is, snipe a battle. You
Yeah,
get a, you get a snipe a battle.
yeah. So it was a tie between that, but I picked the boss just for the cool factor,
Cool.
just
Yeah.
just for the emotions. Just like, oh man,
That's my final bosses always get me because, yeah, there's mechanically better boss fights in other games, but like,
because it's a
man,
simple fight. It's really just mano a mano. Like it's you CQCing the boss,
yeah.
like, and then like punctuated by run and gun. You just like ba-da-da-ba, CQC, and then like you both run away and like scatter, and then come back and it's like two wild animals fighting. That's
Hmm.
awesome. And
Two
then
wild animals with assault weapons.
with assault weapons and like years of military training. Yep. Dogs of war, diamond dogs.
What? Huh? Diamond dogs.
Yeah, yeah. That's my number one.
The real diamond dogs with Brunswick metal on the
True. Then they
way.
died, and I made them into diamonds.
Did you have any other? That's a really good number one. Of course, you could really put like so many Metal Gear fights as number
Senator
one.
Armstrong is the runner-up. That's a great, absolutely batshit crazy boss fight.
Dude, so like I could pick like four fights just from Metal Gear Rising alone.
Yes.
So, like the Jetstream
Opening
Sam,
of the game I could put in.
I like the Jetstream Sam fight more than the Senator Armstrong fight because it is that, like you said, it's that mano a mano. It's that like you're both equal, even. You're just both dudes with swords who are just like flying at each other. Like that. Like I love that stuff so much. Um, yeah. I mean, there's so many great boss fights. The one last honorable mention I have to give is to Lavos from Chrono Trigger.
Was that, yeah, that was in my mind too. Because just the fact that like you finally beat Lavos. JK, that was a shell. And
Yeah.
you go into his shell, and it's like, okay, weird humanoid thing. Why can't I? Why can't I kill this thing? Oh, Lavos is the little pod on the left.
Yeah. And then it's the 3-tier. Well, I guess it could be a 4-tier fight, right? If you, depending on how you play it. But like you get to the, when you get to the, and how the music changes throughout each one. Because it's like that, is it the middle one where it plays yeah, I think it's the middle fight. It's not the shell. It's the one in between, where it's playing that combating line where it's that like and there's like it's like Lavos theme versus Chronos theme, and it's like it's almost like the duel of fates. It's like these dueling,
Back and
it's
forth.
these dueling things where it's like it'll be dark and mysterious, and it goes back to this heroic theme, and then it comes back to this dark theme, and it's like you're fight. I mean, it's yeah, Lavos.
And Magus as well. I mean,
Magus
Magus is very similar to the Aghanim fight. Where like I remember playing that game back in the day, and I thought Magus was the boss.
He was a time boss, and then he's like, "Yo, dog, I'm gonna
Yo,
go
dog,
you
I'm
up."
actually trying to stop the real guy. It's like this is incredible. Like what?
Yeah. Man, there's so many incredible boss fights. The corpse ball from Castlevania Symphony of the Night's got to be up there for me.
Corpse.
Corpse ball.
Like corpse ball.
Sounds like a.
It's got to be
Uh,
about blitz ball.
it sounds like a move from like a Marvel versus Capcom or something. Corpse ball.
Someone's been playing Marvel versus Capcom.
No, I haven't. I've been playing Marvel superheroes. Completely different. Totally not made by
Totally
Capcom.
different game, not similar.
No way. No way, my bud. No way, my bud. Well, that concludes our discussion on the best boss fights ever made, always.
Ever.
And
Okay.
if you have a different opinion, normally I'd tell you to go away. Normally I'd tell you to go to hell. But Meatball over here is telling me I need to be nice to people. So maybe just go fly down in the comments and leave your own top 5 best boss fights.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah. Let us know.
Or not.
Or not.
I really don't care.
I'm only doing this because my therapist said I had to. I really don't care what you think.
But yeah, he said you got to do a podcast. You gotta do a pod.
Gotta do the podcast.
Fine,
Fine.
fine, Doc. You know, we really thank you for being here, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. And you know, you do your thing. Go pet a donkey. If you don't have a donkey around, pet a dog.
Go pet a donkey.